Well, the federal government of Nigeria has confirmed that it is in talks with the World Bank for a $1.5 billion budget support loan. Reports gathered that the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Wale Edun, made the disclosure during a press conference at the ongoing World Bank International Monetary Fund annual meeting in Marrakesh, Morocco. The government also said it will release a new medium-term expenditure framework later this month. Edwin said the $1.5 billion World Bank loan would be coming with zero interest rates. Nigeria is currently battling with about 87 trillion naira debt, which the International Monetary Fund said was manageable, but noted that the interest payment was high for the country. The minister said the new World Bank loan would be used to finance development, disclosing that the facility would be disbursed to Nigeria very soon. Well, joining us right here in the studio to help make sense of this new development is Akin Fatunke, who is a communication consultant and a public affairs commentator. We also do have John Akirile, who joins us virtually. All right. Good morning to you.
I say good morning, Moses. A pleasure to be here. Let me say good morning to Nigerians.
Well, good to have you with us in the studio. And good morning, John. Good morning to you as well.
Good morning, Moses, and good morning to all our viewers all over the globe. Thank you for having me.
All right, then. Now, let's get into this conversation. I'm going to start with you, with me in the studio. Now, here we are. Here we go again. $1.5 billion. At a time when Nigerians are like, okay, we were hopeful that this administration would simmer down on the collection of loans because we seem to have a whole lot we're battling with. And one of the issues we've had in time past is that loans are not used for what they were taken for. What do you make of this new request?
Moses, you are 110% forgiving if you have a skepticism. I have. A lot of Nigerians have skepticisms based on past and based on the ability to strategically deliver on what economists would say real dividend of development. You're right. However, Moses, we are not exactly right to say we should not borrow. What we need to do is to look at our appetites for borrowing, borrow efficiently to arrive at effectiveness. I want to go beyond statistics of looking at borrowing to GDP or borrowing to revenue. Many are still showing very positive integer. However, we have really not been very, very efficient in making sure that we borrow to produce, that we now produce and replicate. We have always borrowed to do consumptions, to do subsidies, borrow to steal, borrow to allow smuggling and subsidies and arbitrage, just name them. Having said and laid that bare, Moses, I will be very surprised, personally surprised. And by the way, a couple of things that you made in your intro, you just made those intros like that. These are not intros. There are a few things hidden in that intro that we should applaud. One, I want to first of all applaud the Honorable Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, on his attainment of chairmanship of an IMF committee. That is a good one. I think that can be deepened by people who have been in that space and who are not necessarily in government. The WTO chair, Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, is one. Mr. Akinwumi Adesina of African Development Bank is another one. Mrs. Ezekwesili is also another one. He can and should and naturally lean on them. This is not the time for politics, so I think it's a good one. I also think it's a good one that we are getting a peep in the sense that he mentioned in faraway Marrakesh in Morocco that today, West African time, the Federal Executive Council will be meeting, meaning that the thing is now shifted, if I understand it correctly, from Wednesdays to Mondays. That, again, is a positive one. And thirdly, Moses, this loan is going to be coming at interest-free. The fourth good news is that we are now being communicated with. Okay, now, I say communication because I'm a communicator. It gives me an insight of what I should be looking at. Okay, 87 trillion loan that is very expensive money that our revenue cannot bear, and you are not going to go for a 1.5 billion loan, which you have said is going to be channeled towards development. What is development? It says programs. And what are the programs? We need to spell them out. Please, Moses and myself, okay, please, I should call my name first. I am aware that the pressure on this government, or any government that will eventually be government in Nigeria today, is that you are superintending on a totally broken, a totally downcast economy. We are down there. And if we now have a minister that is now saying to us, hey, wait a minute, ways and means is not going to be objective. Ways and means has been virtually, which is an overdraft from central bank, has been abused. It's gone against the Fiscal Responsibility Act. It's gone beyond. This little token that is coming, I call it a little token, is welcome. So far, we are able to monitor and find out how it's going to go. Having said all that, Moses, please let me also come down to reality. Trust deficit is a challenge. So if you tell me it is morning and I see night all the time, it's going to be very difficult for me to believe that you are telling me the truth. Because if you now say that you are going to use it to shore up, the first thing is shore up the budget. The METP, which is another good news that he has told us is going to happen in October. I am also aware that if you look at your backyard, Mr. President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria today and the Finance Minister, there are a lot of push and pull. The labor unions are asking for things that we are not being seen to be effectively done. We are having reversal of policies, whether in the subsidy or no subsidy, overturn and stuff like that. And if something is choking you in the hand, it's choking you in the hand, Moses, what are you going to do? You first of all look for how you remove that choke. I hope and I pray, like Obafemi Awolowo said in 1983, that I am wrong in saying that I hope this is not going to go into paying salaries. I hope it's not going to go fully into consumption of fuel subsidy that is not efficient, just because you want to remove some hot coal from your hand.
All right, then let's get John's view on this now. John, so yes, it's an interest-free loan indeed. Should we be excited that it's an interest-free loan, knowing that antecedent of previous loans taken gives us the impression that loans are not used for what they were meant to be used for? That is on one side. And also, should we be excited that we're getting a loan that definitely will be paid back, whether it is interest-free or not? But then we also have 87 trillion naira that we're servicing currently, and the interest is super high.
Moses, let me say to you that for me, it's a sad story. And the reason why I'm sad is because my trust for the Nigerian government, has been molested over the years. And based on my past experience as a Nigerian and the experience I've had with Nigerian government over the past decades of my life, I see this as a culture defect. Culture defect in the sense that you see people borrow money to organize party, borrowing for consumption. And that's the same thing our government officials are also doing. They borrow money to pay salaries. No economy of the world can develop with that kind of strategy. Moses, I've been an advocate of this fact that you say you don't have money for development, but you have money for frivolities. Our government today are saying there's no money, but they have money to pay bogus salaries to senators. They have money to pay pensions to past governors. Moses, maybe this administration should sit down and look at the past governors of those 36 states and look at the amount of money they got yearly. Maybe they should sit down again and look at the high cost of governance. Look at how much you pay your senators, how much you pay House of Rep members, how much you pay your governors, even those serving and those that are even dead. How much the president and the cost of governance is at the House of Villa. How much of it in our yearly budget goes to, expenditure, capital expenditure. These are the questions that we should ask ourselves. And you will see that if we can be moderate, in terms of our system of governance, we will have cut down a lot of wastages. And as such, we will not be even going for this loan. Even if we be going for this loan, it won't be to this high amount. That's on one angle. On the other angle, Moses, is the fact that this administration, like I said, I don't really envy them because they have many problems that, is really on their sleeves that they need to fix. And Nigerians are not really finding it funny now. If you are getting this loan for what? See, Moses, Nigerians, politicians or political class have one common English, empowerment. And at the end of the day, you ask yourself, who are the empowered? We have empowered 1 million farmers. I hope you don't forgotten that phrase as a journalist. And I'm sure that my brother in the studio will also remember that phrase. We have empowered 1 million farmers across the entire of Nigeria. I'm talking about our Cross Borders program. Where are the 1 million farmers today? Do you know how much of money was, expended in that sector? And yet we can't have a result that, equate to the amount that was expended. And questions should be asked. And that is my fear. Sincerely, that's my fear. I know that they can always get the loan from anywhere, either from IMF or from any other foreign investor. They can always get the loan. But what do we do with our loan? That is a question to be asked.
What do we do with our loan? Now, interesting question that we are still trying to find answers to. But free money, that's what this has been called. Free money through the International Development Association, that provides this kind of money to poorest countries. And we qualify. Nigeria qualifies as one of the poorest countries. How does that make you feel that a country blessed in natural resources, like Nigeria is excited that its qualification as one of the poorest countries gives it the enablement to apply for a loan of 1.5 billion naira, billion dollars, I beg your pardon, 1.5 billion dollars for development, financing development.
Moses, I come back to my basic point, and I said to you, you are forgiven. I'm also forgiven. John should naturally be forgiven because there are a couple of low hangers, really, that you should be looking at. If you say you want to put a cloth on me, I look at you and see how you are also clothed, how you are also tailored. So it's a matter of governance. And John is going on and hitting that nail that we all know. I told you that Nigeria is broken. Nigeria is down. Nigeria is going down the drain. And something has to stop. Now, if something now has to come to stop it, there is something that you call a miracle. I don't want to use religion here. That you are sinking. Do you know when you are sinking, even if it's a reel, you still have that faith that that reel, even though you know that you are going to go down, you still hold on to it. That is called faith. You asked me, am I still excited? I am super excited. I am super excited because the law of economics talk about opportunity costs and forgone alternatives. The alternative is that we are all going to be buried. Yes, I agree. Do we have the right discipline, the right people on course? It looks like that to me. It looks, I said, looks like that to me because of some of the reforms I am beginning to see now. Getting those reforms out for the very first time in perhaps 20 years, okay, maybe with the exception of the Obasanjo years, I see a situation where physical and monetary are talking. They are talking. That is ray of hope. It doesn't give you 100%, that at the end of the day it's going to be all right. But that's a ray of hope. We are not getting this. We have a central bank governor that is talking to a tax reform expert in this country and also a minister of finance. That is a ray of hope. I keep on saying, and I will not stop saying it, I am not convinced that if you look at their lifestyle, John already puts a lot across. Is it the kind of lifestyle where your son, for instance, will be flying allegedly in private jet? Does that make sense to you? Does that show you as being poor? Are we not going back to the 60s when the Okotiebos now sat with Lee Kuan Yew? Lee Kuan Yew wanted to learn from Nigeria, and I saw an Okotiebo with a retinue of a dress kilometers back. Have we learned so much? Have we not learned? That notwithstanding, I still say elements of what you call your doubt and your trust deficit. I can't continue to say the driver or the pilot is the only one that can take me to a safe landing. It's either I don't get into that vehicle. Once I get into that I pray. Yes, I can shout, hey, you are not doing the right thing. Oh, all the controls should be in place. But it's better for me to have 2% than continue to be on a minus. That is just strictly. Now you asked me also that, am I excited that Nigeria being potentially rich and all that we are now being
poorest countries, amongst the poorest countries.
But we are. John has agreed to that. I also agree to that. You are poor if you have potentials and you waste it. You can't call yourself rich. You are poor when you have potentials and resources and you are wasting them. You are the poorest of the poor because what happens is that you do not know. He says you do not know that you do not know, and then you are the greatest fool.
Wale Edun in his statement said there is no stigma to the fact that yes, we qualify for this as being poorest of the poor.
Yes.
Shouldn't there be a stigma really?
There can be a stigma when you are down below. Come on, what are we talking about? You call yourself that you live in a big mansion, and in that big mansion you cannot take your car into that mansion. You cannot. Once you go out of that mansion, you are going to be consumed by the poor of the poor, and you call yourself rich. That is not my own definition of richness. Richness is a state of mind whereby you are developmental. The Nigerian situation and the way we have run our economy, including stealing, including smuggling, including not doing the right things, including not having the political willpower to punish those we should punish, makes you a very poor person, okay? And humility, I am speaking from humility perspective. Humility should tell you that stop raising your shoulders and calling yourself rich. you are not rich because you do not know, and you do not know that you do not know, then you are a foolish man. Now, Wale Edun is coming from a perspective that it can be a stigma on what? When we are down in the pit, yes, it's not a stigma because International Monetary Fund begins to say, and they have said that, we are beginning to see elements of reforms coming, even though not enough. And so you now kind of, if you now qualify because you have 7 trillion loans, of which your revenue is not even capable of doing the repayment, you are poor. But we see that you are poor, and I'm hearing you are saying, hey, help, 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 God. That noise alone, you say, okay, you know what? You are a prodigal, okay? Right. And like a prodigal child, I can give you, let's just see how you are going to, let's see how you are going to do whatever it is. Okay. Let me quickly say something. A Peter Obi, I'm sorry I have to bring this in. A Peter Obi, from his austere lifestyle, a Peter Obi from the past experience of what we see him do, you have that kind of confidence that if this guy comes in, starting with him first, that whether he's going to be able to change everything around him is another thing entirely. But we know that this guy is austere. He's going to, people will now believe him a bit much more, that they are going to believe, say, an Atiku or a Bola Tinubu. I'm saying
let's get John's
the optics is such that the low hangers needs to be taken care of also. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, John, so here we are. Ray of Hope. Ray of Hope. Aki in the studio says there's a ray of hope. Ray of hope, indeed. I'm gonna stay on this statement. Ray of hope. So it's okay to go and borrow. It's fine to borrow.
If you borrow appropriately. And
okay.
If you make sure that you borrow to produce.
Okay. Now, let me remind you. Let me take you back, John. Just very recently, while Nigeria is talking about cushioning the effect of the removal of subsidy on fuel, 5 billion naira was given to governors, to help them in their states cushion. Well, out of the 5, 2 billion that we know has been given to governors. And it's over a month, and we haven't seen what most of these governors have used the money for. Just over the weekend, I don't know if you were, if you saw Nigerian Twitter over the weekend, where in Ogun State, an estate chairman was lamenting the quarter bag of rice given to him to share between 147 families in the estate as a cushioning effect for subsidy removal. Now, 2 billion naira, quarter bag of rice, 147, and now we are going for $1.5 billion budget financing. All right. Do you have a ray of hope?
Moses, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
You about to say that. All right?
Okay, so let me
see, the truth of the matter is simple. It means that if they are fooling you, don't fool yourself.
Okay, thank you.
All right? Now, this is it. Talking about, before I come to your question, let me quickly respond to that fact. Talking about Nigeria being the poorest country. How many countries of the world are in multi-dimensional poverty state? Moses, in Lagos, where all of us are, I'm sure over the weekend, if you check your messages on WhatsApp or your phone call history, you would have seen about 10 phone calls. 8 of those phone calls are for financial aid and help. That will tell you that the reality on the streets is what you and I experience on a daily basis, and that cannot be jettisoned. Nigeria is poor. Poor in leadership, poor in discipline, poor in every aspect. And so, even when we are getting this fund, and that is why I'm so bitter, and there's no ray of hope anywhere for me. On one hand, you have a set of leaders who show luxury. How can you be living as if you are the prince of Dubai? If you are the Prince of Dubai, look at what they are doing in their own country. Even if they show that amount of wealth and luxury, you can see the developmental plan and strands that they've achieved. And they're also looking at futuristic plan that they have for their country. Now, let's come back home to our own. You see our minister driving a car of 300 million, and you ask yourself, what will a 300 million do in setting up a factory? How many employees will be employed because of that 300 million naira facility that's been created? And so you see that there's a disparity in terms of what our leader says to us and what we see, in terms of what they use in campaigning and what comes back to us. So these are some of the problems. Now, going to the issue of that palliative, Moses, I said it before. When I talk on this forum, people say John is just against this government. It's not a matter of being against this government. Thank God for social media. It will bring out all of the lies, and you can verify by yourself. One bag of rice for 147 households, and I'm sure this household will be 3: father, mother, and 1 child. The highest might be 5: father, mother, and 3 children. And you are giving that kind of food. Even the gatesman of Mr. Governor, Dapo Abiodun, cannot have that kind of portion for himself. How much more you are giving that to a household? That will tell you the disconnect between our leaders and the people, between the policies. And let me say this, Moses. When people say they are representing us, either at the Senate level or the House of Assembly, I say it's a lie, because there's a total disconnect. Some of them cannot go back to their constituencies. Even when they go back to their own party constituency, not to the main street, because they know that they'll be stoned. All right? Now, because the streets is not really feeling the effect of good governance. And that's why I say, when you're a good leader, you don't need 100 aides and security men around you. Look at good leaders of the world. They work alone, and they work on the streets. They work in the market without security aids, and people can relate with them, people can touch them, people can talk to them, people can take pictures with them. But in our own case, even a councillor cannot work in his own street. You know why? Because the people are not feeling the impact of good governance. And so for me as a citizen, I'm not seeing any ray of hope. The only thing is, if you are in their cabinet, you are in their circle, they can share some of this largesse to you, and that just will keep you short. Moses, some people will come on this forum just because they want to gain an appointment to be the team of the presidential spokesperson. I'm not looking for appointment anywhere. I don't even want any appointment. But what I'm saying is, I just want a country that works for all. Moses, go to other class of the world. You will see a child of 18 years, is gainfully employed somewhere. In Nigeria, even when you are 35, you are still under your parents' roof. What kind of generation are we raising? And I've been saying it, that with this way we are going, we are raising monsters. And when these monsters come, they will come on all of us. In fact, get the best creator of the world, they cannot save you at that point in time. And so that is why there's this call to action to our leaders, that do what is right for us. When you get this loan, let's have a plan. Most of the time, the problem is there is no concrete plan in terms of numbers, figures, facts, data. You just go and borrow the money, and before you know it, the money will just fuse out into the system, and you cannot point to one categorical, developmental strand that has been achieved as a result of this loan. So let's go back to last administration. How much was borrowed? How many factories were set up? What are the interventions? What are the effects economically? How did it affect the people directly? You look at the indices, you see that they are not matching. They match. And so if you also as a leader who is in his right, mind, we also look at it that the mistake our hero spouse have made, we should not continue in that line of mistake anymore. Rather, we can take a clip from there and correct our path. Thank you to my brother in the studio who just said that we have brilliant minds. How come Moses, our own Femi Adesina, is doing so well at the African Development Bank? He's a Nigerian. How come those things cannot work in Nigeria here? How come we have a WTO DG, Okonjo-Iweala, doing great things in other countries of the world? How come they cannot work here? Moses is the system. And part of the system is this nonchalant, and frivolous, irresponsible attitude of unnecessary spending in governance. And that must be checked and corrected. And that is my fear, that even if this money is released to them, they will just go ahead and squander, and there's no accountability. Don't forget that IMF will still give another fund. After they give them this 1.5 billion, they will still give you some time. You will go back and they will still give another fund. Their own aim is that they want you to be indebted to them. And this is what I call new generation, colonialism.
Colonialism.
All right? And so we should understand that this is a problem. So don't borrow money for generations yet unborn to be paying. But if you are borrowing money and you are setting up industries, factories across the left and right of the country, and that our young people can be gainfully employed, Moses, if that is really tackled, I can assure you that economically we will bounce back. The government will also gain more money. Why? Because there will be more people into the tax net. Now people are not, some have not even eaten today. Some don't even know what they will eat today. You are talking about tax to them. Someone that does not have a job. So these are some of the things that we need to check. So this money you are going to borrow, is it going to help us solve transitional problem? Is it going to help us solve job unemployment problem? Is it going to help us solve healthcare problem? What problem exactly will this money solve? Don't just come and tell us it's empowerment. Empowerment to go and buy wheelbarrow and give to people.
All right.
And say you are doing empowerment. Is that empowerment?
Yes. It's financing development.
John, my dear brother, I mean, you can't be much more angry.
Let's wrap up in a,
yes.
You
can't be much more angry than myself. The only difference between your anger and my anger is that I am basing mine on facts. Ojukwu, when he came back and he was, he was given an amnesty by Shagari, he was asked on national television. Now, all the things that has happened to you, Zeke and all that kind of stuff, he made a profound statement. He said, my eyes are in front and not at the back. Please, I speak on facts. I understand that you are not only angry because of yesterday. Yesterday is not today. And today, we need situations where we come out with facts. The government, for the very first time, is talking about green bonds. Do we know what green bonds is? It's free money. The government is now talking about climate change, that we have gone 50%. I understand you may not want to believe. I still don't want to believe. So what I am going to do, therefore, is that I know I have my representatives, I have my voice. I have come to the studio this morning to now then say, hey, what are you going to use this for? If you don't use it for what needs to be used for, we begin to make a lot of noise. I am glad. And I say I have hope. I am angry, but my anger is not going to put food in my stomach and my children's food.
All right, then.
I want a situation where I say, yes, we have a new day. Yes, in this new day, we must have new sheriffs. We must have people that have to be very representative. Whether you are going it the wrong way, we begin to make the right noise. I'm happy about the kind of noise that Labour is making. Okay. And you can see quite a number of things that are changing.
All right,
it can only get better if, I don't know about any other person. I have the hope, I have the confidence. IMF, if you know about IMF, you know that IMF is not a Father Christmas that will just give you. They must have seen one or two things because they can give you. It's very strict, and they know behind the scenes quite a number of things will have been said. These are some of the things we are going to be doing.
And they also know that we'll be indebted to them going forward.
Oh yeah, well.
More indebted.
This is not China Nexim, where they will now then say they come and seize it. No. It doesn't happen that way.
Right,
I know how
Let me get
how that thing
John's
works.
final thoughts now before we go on to the next topic. John, your final thoughts in a minute on this.
My final thought is just that our leaders should understand that it's a new dispensation, it's a new time. It's a new time for them to correct mistakes of eras past, and that they should be seen to be decent and moderate in their lifestyle, in their spending, and that they always use that money judiciously to the development of the people and our economy as a whole. Thank you very much.
All right, then. Thank you very much, John. That's John Akirile, who joins us from Japan. And also, we've been speaking with Akin Fatunke, who is with us in the studio. But we'll keep the gentlemen on the show as we go on to the next topic. Up next on VOP this morning, the young shall grow, they say. 24 years old, fresh graduate, Imam Ibrahim Kashim, becomes the chairman of the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA. All right, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this when we come back.